The afternoon sun cast long, gold-tinged shadows across the downtown office building as Claire Bennett methodically gathered the contents of her desk into a plain cardboard box. Each item she touched felt heavier than the last. Her fingers trembled slightly as she carefully placed a framed photo of her son on top, a snapshot of 7-year-old Noah grinning, with his gap-toothed smile. Her blonde hair fell forward, brushing against her cheek, hiding the tears she fought so hard not to shed. "I'm sorry it came to this, Claire," Mr. Henderson had said an hour earlier, his voice flat and detached, the tone of someone trained to remove empathy from difficult conversations. But company policy, he insisted, was clear. This was a professional environment, not a daycare. Bring your child to work, even once, was grounds for immediate termination. Claire had tried to explain. The call from Noah's school had come in the late morning. A fever. Immediate pickup required. The babysitter was out of town, and her family lived hundreds of miles away. There was no plan B. She had brought Noah to the office, thinking she could quietly settle him in a corner with his tablet and headphones, manage the quarterly reports, and leave early. But Mr. Henderson had seen him, and that had been enough. At 28, Claire was suddenly unemployed, with rent due in 2 weeks, and a son who relied entirely on her. She clutched her clipboard with the exit paperwork, feeling the full weight of single parenthood pressing down like never before. "Mom, are we going home now?" Noah asked softly, slipping his small hand into hers. The bandage on his forehead from yesterday's playground mishap was coming loose at the edges. "Yes, sweetheart, we're going home. Did I get you in trouble?" Claire crouched to his level, searching his worried brown eyes. "No, baby, never. You could never get me in trouble. Sometimes grown-up things are just complicated." They walked into the golden evening, the city buzzing with people heading home from work. People who still had jobs, who didn't have a fear of an uncertain rent check hanging over their heads. Claire held Noah's hand tighter, trying to piece together what came next, how she would keep her small family afloat. 3 weeks later, Claire sat in the waiting room of Bennett & Associates, a mid-sized consulting firm she had discovered through a job posting. In those 3 weeks, she'd applied to 47 positions, gone through 12 interviews, and received 11 polite rejections. This was her last hope before she'd have to consider overnight shifts or retail work. Anything to keep the lights on. The receptionist called her name. Claire smoothed her cream-colored blouse, picked up her worn clipboard containing her resume, and stepped into the office. The man behind the desk stood as she entered, perhaps in his late 30s. He had dark hair and an approachable presence that immediately put her at ease. He wore a navy suit that spoke of success, but his smile was warm, genuine. "Claire Bennett, I'm Daniel Morrison. Please have a seat." They settled across from each other, Daniel glancing at her resume. "I see you were with Henderson Consulting for 3 years. Strong performance reviews. Excellent project completion. Why did you leave?" Claire had prepared answers, carefully rehearsed, diplomatic, corporate acceptable. But something about Daniel's eyes, a kindness, or perhaps exhaustion with corporate pretense, made her decide on honesty. "I was fired for bringing my son to work," she admitted, her voice quiet but steady. "He was sick. The school called. I had no one else. I thought I could manage both." She hesitated. "My former boss felt it violated company policy." Daniel was silent for a moment, thoughtful. Then he did something unexpected. He reached into his desk drawer and slid an old photograph across to Claire. The photo showed a young boy, about 8 or 9, sitting in the corner of an office, a bandage on his head, trying to make himself small and invisible while reading a book. "That's me," Daniel said softly. 29 years ago, my mother was a single parent, working as a secretary at a law firm. I got hurt at school, fell off the monkey bars, needed stitches. She had no one to watch me, so she brought me to work. I tried to be quiet, invisible. I remember thinking, if I was good enough, maybe no one would notice me. Claire felt her throat tighten. "My boss found me," Daniel continued. "Instead of firing her, he sat down and talked to me, asked about school, about my dreams. Then he told my mother to take the rest of the day off, paid. He said, 'A company that doesn't understand that parents are people with responsibilities isn't worth working for.' That lesson stuck with me. How we treat people in vulnerable moments defines who we are. Not policies, not procedures, but humanity. Tears slid down Claire's cheeks. I tried so hard to do everything right, she whispered. I know you did. I can see it. In your resume, your references. You're exactly who this company needs. Someone who shows up, takes responsibility, solves problems, and understands that being a good parent doesn't make you a bad employee. It makes you exceptional. Are you offering me the job? Claire asked, hardly daring to hope. I am. Same salary as Henderson, better benefits. And our policy is different. If your child is sick, bring them in. We have a quiet room, some books, toys. It's not fancy, but it works. Because I remember what it was like to be that kid trying to disappear, and how it mattered that my mother's employer saw her as a whole person. There's one more thing, Daniel said. I started this company 10 years ago after rising from nothing. My mother cleaned offices while studying, bringing me along when necessary. She taught me dignity isn't about salary or status. It's about how you treat people in need. He paused at the window, looking at the city skyline. She passed 5 years ago. Her greatest accomplishment wasn't her career, though she became a successful attorney. It was raising a son who understood kindness. I built this company on that principle. We succeed together or not at all. Claire started the following Monday. Over the months, she thrived. Her work was valued. Her ideas heard. Twice when Noah was sick, she brought him in. Each time, Daniel checked on him, treating him as a person who mattered. 6 months later, Claire proposed something radical in a management meeting, a formal family support program. On-site childcare, flexible hours, subsidies, partnerships with local daycare centers. Something that truly helped employees balance work and family. The other managers hesitated. It would be expensive. It would be revolutionary, Daniel said, and exactly what we should do. Claire lead this initiative. 9 months later, the Bennett and Associates Family Support Program launched. It started small, daycare partnerships, subsidized costs, flexible scheduling. Word spread. Within 2 years, Claire spoke at conferences, sharing the model, showing companies that supporting employees as whole people is both ethical and good business. Noah grew up watching his mother transform, from a woman dismissed for doing her best into someone reshaping workplace culture. He saw Daniel treat her with respect, modeling the kind of man he wanted to be. On the 5th anniversary of Claire's hiring, the company held a celebration. Daniel shared the photograph again, the boy in the office corner. I was that kid, he told the employees, the one who needed his mother to have a chance. Someone chose compassion over policy, and it changed everything. Because of that choice, we built a company that values humanity above productivity. Claire, standing with Noah, a confident 12-year-old, listened, tears of pride and gratitude flowing freely. That night, as they walked to the car, city lights sparkling, Noah asked, Mom, why are you crying? Happy tears, baby, she said. I'm just thinking about how far we've come. Because 3 weeks after she'd been fired, Daniel had remembered what it felt like to be her, a desperate parent juggling responsibilities, and chose to see her not as a liability, but as someone doing her best. That one act of recognition changed her life's trajectory. And now, 5 years later, hundreds of other parents were receiving the same chance, the same acknowledgement, the ripple effect of kindness. Claire realized, spreads far beyond what we can see. One person willing to say, I understand, let me help, can transform countless lives. And sometimes that is enough to change everything. There's one more thing, Daniel said, his voice gentle but firm. I started this company 10 years ago, but I didn't do it out of ambition alone. I started it because of what I learned from my mother. She worked 2 jobs, cleaning offices at night and studying during the day, bringing me along whenever she had no other choice. She taught me that dignity isn't measured by your paycheck or your title. It's measured by how you treat people when they need help the most. He walked to the window and gazed out at the city streets below, lost in memory. She passed away 5 years ago. Cancer. In the end, her greatest accomplishment wasn't the career she built, though she eventually became a successful attorney. It was raising a son who understood kindness, respect, and humanity. He turned back to Claire, a soft but resolute smile on his face. I built this company on that principle. We succeed together or not at all. And anyone who works here needs to understand that success without compassion is hollow. Claire felt tears prick her eyes. She thought back to the desperate moments after her termination. The panic, the uncertainty, the fear of failing her son. And now, sitting across from someone who genuinely understood her struggle, she felt a rare spark of hope. She started the following Monday. The first few weeks were a whirlwind. Everything was new. The office layout, her colleagues, and most of all, the culture. Unlike her previous experience, where productivity was prioritized above all else, here people were valued as whole individuals. Her ideas were welcomed, her expertise recognized. For the first time in years, she felt that her work truly mattered. Twice in those initial months, Noah fell sick and couldn't attend school. Each time, Claire brought him into the office, worried about the impression she might make. But Daniel never judged. Instead, he would pause his work to check on Noah, ask about his day, and even sit with him for a few minutes, treating him as a person who mattered, not as a distraction. These small acts of acknowledgement left a lasting impression on Claire, reinforcing her sense of belonging and validation. 6 months into her role, Claire had begun to notice patterns. Other employees were quietly struggling to balance parenthood and professional expectations, just as she had. During a management meeting, she took a deep breath and shared a radical idea. What if we formalize support for employees with children? Not just quiet rooms for emergencies, but a real program, on-site childcare, flexible schedules, partnerships with local daycare centers, subsidies for working parents. We could create something that actually helps people balance work and family, instead of making them choose one over the other. The room fell silent. Some managers exchanged uncertain glances. It would be expensive, one finally said, voicing the obvious concern. It would be revolutionary, Daniel responded, leaning back in his chair, eyes steady. And exactly what we should do. Claire, I want you to lead this initiative. Claire felt a surge of pride and disbelief. Her voice trembled slightly, but she nodded. I'll do everything I can. 9 months later, the Bennett and Associates Family Support Program launched. It began modestly. Partnerships with nearby daycare centers, subsidized childcare costs, and flexible scheduling options. Word of the initiative spread quickly, and soon other companies were taking notice. Within 2 years, Claire was invited to speak at conferences, sharing the program's model and demonstrating that supporting employees as complete human beings was both ethical and practical business strategy. Through it all, Noah observed closely. He watched his mother transform, from a woman dismissed for trying to do her best into someone capable of influencing an entire workplace culture. He saw Daniel interact with Claire, treating her with dignity, respect, and kindness, modeling for Noah the type of man he might aspire to become. The lessons of empathy and integrity were not just theoretical. They were lived daily, shaping Noah's understanding of the world and the people in it. On the 5th anniversary of Claire's hiring, Bennett and Associates held a company-wide celebration. Daniel stepped to the podium, holding the same photograph he had shown Claire in that first interview. The young boy in the office corner, trying to disappear, with a bandage on his head. I was that kid, he told the assembled employees. The one who needed my mother to have a chance. The one who benefited from compassion over policy. Because someone made that choice 34 years ago, I stand here today leading a company that values humanity above mere productivity. Claire reminded me why this matters. She reminded me that behind every employee is a person, a life, responsibilities, a family. When we honor that truth, everyone wins. Claire stood with Noah beside her. He had grown into a confident 12-year-old, his gap-toothed smile now replaced by the first hints of adolescence. Watching Daniel speak, she felt a swell of pride and gratitude. That night, after the celebration, she walked to her car with Noah, city lights twinkling all around them. Mom, Noah asked, "Why are you crying?" "Happy tears, baby," she said, kneeling to hug him. "I'm just thinking about how far we've come. How much has changed since those weeks after I was fired, sitting in Daniel's office, seeing that photograph, realizing someone actually understood what I was going through. They didn't see me as a problem. They saw me as a person doing my best. Noah's small hand squeezed hers. Because Mr. Morrison remembered being you, and that made all the difference. Claire nodded. Exactly. That one act of recognition, one small choice to show compassion, changed the course of our lives. And now hundreds of other parents get that same chance, that same recognition. She looked around at the sparkling city, imagining all the families whose work days would be easier, whose stress would be eased, whose children would be cared for, because someone had chosen humanity over policy. The ripple effect of kindness, she realized, spreads far beyond what one can see. A single decision, a moment of empathy, can grow into a movement that touches lives you'll never meet. All it takes is one person willing to remember where they came from and say, I was that kid too. I understand. Let me help. And sometimes that is enough to change everything.